Welcome to Kundalini Rebels podcast. This is something that I've wanted to give space to for a while. And I guess there's been a fear in me. The time hasn't been right in me, and now I feel the calling moving through. A time of great change, not only in the world, but in the Kundalini Yoga community especially. And so it really feels that we need to come together in discussion and open communication to see how we move forward. So welcome, Louisa.
Hello.
You are have set up the UK's first women's Kundalini Yoga Festival, which has really brought our UK community together, I feel. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. And it feels potent to talk to you about that at this time. And there's so much more about you. So please introduce yourself.
Hello. This is my first video call as well, so lots of firsts this morning, so forgive me if I'm a little bit nervous. But yeah, I'm Louisa Darling, and also, like you, can be found on social media. I'm a Kundalini Yoga teacher, and I am an event organiser and mother as well of 5 children. I've been organising Barefoot Festival now for 14 years, and organise other holistic events. I've got a wild woman camp coming up and things as well. So it seemed almost natural that I then wanted to present an event for the Kundalini community, really. I think there has been another similar gathering in the UK of women. I wasn't aware of that. But again, I think that's been down south. And for me, in the Midlands, there's always so much going off in London and surrounding counties, and so very little out of London. It was really important for me to try and get somewhere that was away from that and in nature. So it's kind of been a very organic process, juggling lots of things, but really felt driven to create it, to give that space for people to come together and share.
And women especially, Kundalini Yoga, it attracts quite a mix, I feel, in terms of, if you go to a lot of yoga classes, it's mostly women. But there feels like quite a few men that do Kundalini Yoga. However, in what I have seen in the UK Kundalini Yoga community, the women are really, really coming through. And that Shakti energy is so vibrant. And it's what I see, and what I intend to do with a lot more of these conversations, is to see where women are taking it to the next level. And that, to me, is the really exciting part. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can we evolve with equality and with respect for the teachings as well? What really excited me then when you shared about Wild Woman Festival, because you seem to me like a bit of a wild woman yourself. I think then you put on yourself, you're a creatrix, and do you like belly dancing? And
that's
stuff.
Actually, been a portal, I think, for this whole journey for me. It was actually where I first came across the word Kundalini, and intuitively, without knowing it back then, I mean, you're talking 15, 20 years ago, when I first started teaching belly dancing, that's how I was teaching it. I was teaching it for healing, and for exploration, and for getting to help women love their bodies, with all the shaky bits and everything. And that really took me on a journey, which has also part of that journey been the Kundalini Yoga, and loads of other stuff. So I have a lot to thank for belly dancing, to be honest with you. I don't do it as much as I'd like to these days, but it's definitely something I plan to return to.
It's interesting, you bring it up, and I'm not sure if you chose not to go there or it just didn't come through, was the root of the word Kundalini, you know, and I'm based in Yorkshire, so like some of the women, and they come to my class, is a bit of a laugh, like, hey up, Kundalini, you know. I'm alluding to something more here, obviously, but it is that Shakti energy. It's creative force that moves within us, which is, to me, is sexual energy. And the difficulty in the culture that we live in is that sexuality has been used to keep us in control. It's been used to manipulate us and sell us everything except our own power, you know? And so for me, Kundalini yoga is totally tantric. Like, and there's a very beautiful, I don't want to use the word spiritual, because to me that's not devoid of sexuality, but holy, reverent kind of aspect to it, which is gorgeous. And for me, it lacks that kind of ownership of sexuality, where belly dancing, tantra, which is another one of my kind of roots, really brings that through. So yeah, like it's beautiful for me often to speak to other Kundalini yoga teachers who vibe that. Do you know what I mean? Because it is a transmission. You know, we can teach Kundalini yoga is taught by Yogi Bhajan. However, it moves through us, just as the teachings move through him. You know, we're a vessel. It's not about us. It's like what is moving through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and, you know, coming back to this idea of the Shakti energy and women coming together and what you're bringing through with the Kundalini Yoga Festival, I feel this change in the air, you know, not just in the world at large, but in Kundalini Yoga. You know, let's not dismiss the white elephant in the room. There are huge things going on in our community, big discussions happening. And, you know, we had our little side chat before we jumped on. So anyone listening right now, this is a little like edit to you. But we discussed about your, is it okay to say the word confusion now? Surrounding Women's Kundalini Yoga Festival. And so, yeah, I open that up to you to perhaps share the space that you're in going forward with the festival and with your teaching.
Well, obviously, timing is rather challenging at the moment. I'm organising a Kundalini Woman Festival that was very much about the teachings of Yogi Bhajan and about women. With the things that have come up recently in our community, it changes everything for me. It does change everything for me, there's no doubt. I was a little bit late to the party in having the opportunity to go and do my own personal investigation. And it was by kind of coincidence, really, yesterday, speaking to a close friend. So I still feel really quite raw and a little bit shattered. I think that's a good word to use, shattered, with how I feel. And I haven't been able to settle whether we will actually settle. Obviously, as a teacher, I'm teaching a class tomorrow. I'm trying to gather my thoughts, gather how I feel about it. At the moment, and, you know, excuse the clumsy words as well, at the moment, I understand that what we just said, that my first introduction to the word Kundalini was 20 years ago. I'd never heard of Yogi Bhajan. And when I first heard this word, it kind of sparked something in me. It resonated and I wanted to explore. And then I kept hearing a little bit more about it. And it was massively linked with the belly dance and igniting that energy within me. And like you said, it's a feeling. So I kind of, on that understanding for me, I know that it's not that Yogi Bhajan owns that for me. It came before, and luckily I am able to link back into that link back into other teachings, like you said, you use the Tantra teachings, and I've kind of always liked to pick from all places. So it's good to have that as a reliability, other than just being linked with Kundalini.
Louisa, for those who might be watching or listening who don't know kind of what we're talking about, there was a book released called Kremka, Golden Bird in a Cage, something along those lines. Personally, I've chosen not to buy into what I see as gossip, although I see the irony in discussing it now, and the necessity also. And having not read it, I don't feel qualified to share fully what it entails. However, my understanding is that there are poetic allegations to her relationship with him regarding an abuse of power sexually and some dynamics within the businesses. But you could explain more.
Again, this is because of the timing of the situation, and like me saying that I feel quite raw and unsettled with it. I haven't read the book either. I plan to read the book. Because this is like you, I kind of felt at first that I didn't want to delve, but then I also had to question why, in me personally, completely separate to anything to do with yoga, why I decided that I didn't want to delve. And then, like I said, accidentally the information comes through, because if you are a member of our community, it's in news feeds, you can't kind of too much avoid it. And I also felt that I had a certain responsibility as a teacher to have an awareness and an understanding of what's happening, so that if I get asked about it in my class, I have something that I can comment on. And it is actually completely unraveling before our eyes, so it's hard for anyone to have a complete understanding of the situation.
In your own words, what do you feel what has shattered you? What is it that shattered you?
I feel a little betrayed, really. And the thing is, the huge driving power behind most of the events that I do, but particularly the Kundalini Woman Festival, is sharing, is the benefit of coming together and being honest, and speaking our truth. And, for me, the foundations of Kundalini Yoga is a lot on the Satnam, truth is my name. And I feel like things have been hidden. Things are still being hidden. Some of the groups that I've seen on social media, posts are being deleted. And it's a censorship. And I think that what's important is that we all have the right to find our own opinion, find our own feelings. And without that information being open, it's kind of impossible to do that. That is, I feel like, at the responsibility of a teacher, what do I tell my students? How can I, continue to teach the teachings of Yogi Bhajan, knowing what I know is can't be unseen. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. I know that there are quite a few people who feel similarly, who feel it's almost like a heartbrokenness that I feel.
Definitely.
It's like a break in trust because of that truth, I suppose. From my perspective, I'm not surprised.
No, I wasn't surprised either. And I've seen so many people say that as well.
I've heard allegations, and my initial response when I heard it was, why is there a woman and totally bless her for, and I admire her and her courage for speaking up. However, why 60 years later or something, after the man's been dead, and I realised that after somebody has passed, that then there's a courage that can come through. So I see all angles. However, again, why publish a book that is a monetary gain from something that happened so long ago? And in my understanding, she was with him openly in a relationship for like 16 years, worked with him. And that is a very long time to be supposedly under a spell. So I'm just like, I see Yogi Bhajan as a man, as a human with his faults, and I really don't believe, and this is one of the things that I've really struggled with Kundalini Yoga, having been a teacher now for like over 10 years, is like, so you want me to live my truth, but you want me to follow dogma. And that's always been the thing. It's like, do this. But then there's what I felt, and why it's been quite hard for me to open this space for discussion, and perhaps haven't been ready in my own self, is a resistance to any questioning. Like, that is what I've often found with other teachers, and almost what I might call a spiritual bypass, like check in with yourself, check in with your ego. It's like, well, okay, I get that, but can we explore what's going on here? So to bring that back to the book, from my perspective, my journey has been one of healing, as all of us are, and we're all journeying, and I experienced childhood sexual abuse, so I understand the dynamic of power that can be at play. And I've been on a huge journey with that and found a lot of peace in myself and forgiveness. And one of the major aspects of that has been my journey with my own masculine, which I think is so important for women.
Yeah.
Along that journey, and you might have seen another post that I shared, was a journey with my first tantric teacher.
I did see it, yeah.
A charming Indian man, and so the story was just like, I felt like I can see that, I understand how she could have been charmed and went along, and, and the guy I was seeing was definitely not Yogi Bhajan, you know what I mean? But I can imagine if I was around at that time in 60s California, I'd have been totally in love with him, for sure. Yeah. And I see that with some of my students coming to me, and I've been asked out by some of them, and it's like, you don't know me. You know what I mean? I'm showing you your own light, Yeah. It's like, again, it comes back to that being a channel, and it's not about looking up to a teacher, and the higher we put someone on a pedestal, the harder they're going to fall. Absolutely.
And I think this is one of the main things that I think we should take from this, and I think we've perhaps mentioned it in our conversations before, the inner guru always, and I think I've always been a little bit suspicious. There's through my experience with Kundalini Yoga, there has been things that have cropped up in the teachings that I've kind of been, that doesn't entirely sit with me. And I think I've had the courage, I guess, and the sense or the confidence in my own inner wisdom to go, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to, work with that. I think the people who this has hit the hardest have been some of the people who have a little bit idolised Yogi Bhajan and put him on that pedestal. And I think it's going to be harder. And I am grateful for myself to have had, other teachers other things that I've used to develop and heal and process and on this journey. But at the same time, I think my main difficulty of process is, how do I continue in my teaching, and what do I say to my students? So that's where I'm kind of really gathering myself, because I do want to continue teaching Kundalini Yoga, because I know in my heart deeply that it has been such a help to me through some dark times. And I know in my heart, from witnessing that with other people, students and colleagues, that it has been so healing and wonderful. So it's not that, and I know I saw a post just before we came on about how we continue the teachings and removing the teacher. So removing Yogi Bhajan, can we continue with the teaching? The teaching is older, it comes before, there is a different golden chain. Yoga is, an ancient system. But it's difficult, and I think that's what's going to be happening now in the unravelling, and that is, I see, where our duty as the teachers, that's where it falls, to help with that, to process that. And that's why I think the Kundalini Woman Fest at the end of this March, this new month, will be that organic growth area, like making little beds to plant, where do we stand, what are we as Kundalini women now, with this, where do we go from here?
Yes, and that, to me, that's why great change is so necessary, and it's scary, because it's
really scary,
like the foundations, but the foundations, actually, it's like bringing us more and more back to ourselves and to the guru within, like you said. And what was so interesting when I go back to Yogi Bhajan is that so much of his teaching was about empowering women, and I feel like he saw women as the next step, and certainly does the Dalai Lama. It's been spoken about, and not just women, actually, the rise of the feminine, the return of the feminine, and that beautiful, necessary vulnerability that is missing in so much of, definitely the culture in the UK.
Bringing balance, isn't it? It's evening out the balance. It has been tipped to one side for far too long, and almost exactly, that what we've been talking about. So it's about bringing the balance in. And I must say as well, one of the things with my experience of Kundalini Yoga has been that I also did the teacher training, or I am still teacher training for the Shakti dance. So that's always been, for me, really feminine. And it kind of uses different mantra, different things, and I think again that has been a good foundation for me, and makes this process a little bit easier.
So we're going to have some Shakti dance at the festival,
yes.
Which I always really enjoy. Tell us more about what is being offered.
So we've got a lovely group of teachers who are coming along, and we were just about to publish the timetable, the programme. I think some teachers will like the opportunity to adjust, maybe, so we're going to allow that. But we've got gong baths in the afternoon, we've got singing bowl meditations, we've got some shamanic teachings interwoven. Obviously, you can talk about what you'll be presenting as well. We've got a thing about moon cycles. It's just really going to be a wonderful opportunity. And I think for me, with my experience of teaching, when I did my teacher training, some of the most profound conversations that I had were actually sat down with someone at lunchtime. So the food and sitting together and just sharing, for me, is also going to be really important, just creating a space for us all to be in, and share our wisdom with one another, and hold each other, hold a space. And I do think that we will make one particular space in the programme purely for sitting and, you know, discussing how we identify ourselves as Kundalini women now. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be really cathartic and healing and opening, hopefully. And of course we've got space for children. I've just heard one of mine shouting. So we've got a forest school teacher on both days offering sessions, and if your children are over 5, they can go and be cared for. So that gives women who perhaps otherwise haven't got someone to look after the children the opportunity to you know, have some space to go and attend the workshops, or just walk around. We hired like an actual a woodland. There's a yurt, so some of the workshops will be in a rather big space, and then there's also a more intimate space in a yurt that you have to kind of walk through the trees to go and find. And also, you know, we've got the whole woodland section completely private and to ourselves. So I'm hoping that people come, and, you know, it's about contributing as much as, you know, sharing and learning.
Yeah, I think we both feel that. I feel there's been a shift in the Kundalini community recently. I think there's like new generations coming through, and there's like evolution of it is percolating slowly. There's a different vibration evolving. Definitely, I've felt that. And now it's like all my Kundalini sisters feel so nourishing. You know, we can have these conversations, you know, open discussions about how we find teaching, how we're sharing, what music we're using, you know, the whole process. So I think anybody who's, you know, explored Kundalini, or maybe has some intrigue, and other teachers would really benefit from this gathering. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it anyway.
No, I think it's there's the boundaries are opening. I think one of the things about what's happening now is that the things are overlapping, and I've found that in the things that I've used, like, so for example, even, you know, Wicca, some of the practices overlap completely. They're very, very similar, and that's exciting. That's a really exciting time, and I think the fact that you're bringing some of that to the workshops. I know Kimber is also a shamanic healer as well, so she's going to be discussing that. And yeah, also this opportunity on the Saturday night just to kind of have some free dance and let our hair down a little bit and go a little bit and just have you know, what I've always found dance and movement one of the quickest ways to connect. So and yeah, just give ourselves a little bit of a shakedown and a shimmy. So yeah, I think it's needed, and I think these you know, what you're talking about, the different vibration, out of everything that was happening before, out of the state of the world. I think it's important that we make good out of this, and with all of this comes, for me, freedom, a little bit of freedom, you know, and that's how I will continue forward. It allows things to open up a little bit more. And that's that's a good thing. I mean, we talked a little bit on the side before about the fact that, you know, it's the sharing for me is really the important thing. So
It's taking the pedestals down and bringing equality, really, which to me is the true meaning of feminism, you know, and which is why I think it's so important that the feminine rises, you know, within men and women. And that's really where I share from a sort of temple arts tantric basis, is that we all have a masculine and a feminine, you know,
Cool.
and a lot of the projection or the feelings, you know, wherever there's a trigger, there's a mirror, you know, wherever there's a trigger or a feeling of distaste, there's an opportunity for growth, you know.
Yes.
And there is so much shadow in the Kundalini Yoga community. It's unreal. You know, it's like, you know, now we get an opportunity to dig through, you know, and shake things up and perhaps bring the feminine way and a bit more sort of freedom, like you said, which is just can only be exciting.
I mean, I would say that I've been involved with sort of communities before, like, for example, we talked about the belly dance community, and, you know, I've done a lot of women's work before, and I've ran the Wild Woman Camp, and I've quite often been a little bit held back because I've always worried about this kind of clickiness, this bitchiness, this competitiveness between women. And I will say, hand on my heart, that the Kundalini community of women, again, I came to it a little bit scared because of previous experiences within a woman's space. I felt none of that, but being completely supported, heard, you know, even when I am in this kind of slightly shattered state, genuine love and caring and sharing, no you know, competitiveness, and that's my first experience of that sisterhood. Because I think certainly the teachers, we've got like a little group that we talk to each other in, and everyone's very, I hate to use the word authentic, but there's no other way of explaining it. Everyone is just, you know, you said to me before we started, come as you are. And I think sometimes with Kundalini you can get really put off by the fact that we wear white and the turbans and everything, and to be honest, I have never been one that's been strictly with that, but it's quite the opposite. The community, and whenever I've gone to the gatherings, I have felt nothing but heartfelt, genuine love. And
that's it. Like, I don't question the teachings. They work without a doubt for me, and I go on experience, you know. And, you know, saying about the turban and the whites, what's so interesting is that, you know, and this is why I feel like traditions need to be upheld. You know, I've had my journey with publishing my book with KRI, which was massive, but it's a journey, and it's all an unraveling. And if there wasn't somebody, Ishwara, or bless her, saying, challenging me, you know, about wearing the whites, about wearing the turban, I'd have never have gone, okay, I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to cover my head for 90 days, and I'm going to try it. You know what I mean?
You've got to try these things, haven't you?
Where can I, you know, how can I, like, I'm just waxing lyrical otherwise. And now I love it. It's like my crown, you know. And I always wear white. Sometimes I wear a snake skin, you know.
I love the idea of thinking of the turban as a crown. I think that's just And when I do wear it, that's, to me, it makes me feel, you know, strong, protected. And like you said, you know, if you don't try it, I've always said at the beginning of of when I start a new course or anything like that, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and I don't understand why it works. It just does. And for some people, you come, you try it, maybe it's not for you at that moment. Maybe there are other things that, you know, you find your connection with, and we've all got different paths, but for me, you know, it has worked. It does work. And I see that in the future it will still keep working, you know, and that's what's happening now. How do we still make this work, you know, for not for purely for the healing and the benefits that it does bring. So we have to find that path.
So we have to wrap up here, and it feels like a perfect time or a perfect sentence to close with. You just said, you know, the UK's first really Women's Kundalini Yoga Festival coming up. How do we move forward together? You know, let's come together as sisters and open this space and cry and scream and hold each other and figure this out, because the teaching's going to continue. They work. How do we have the integrity with them, really?
Yeah, yeah. It's
liberating ourselves.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It's been really lovely to talk with you. Yeah. Look forward to talking more.
Yes, definitely.
Satnam.
Take care. Bye-bye, Satnam.
Bye.